Story 1. It has to be that rotten chocolate-covered strawberry I ate on Valentine's Day years ago. They had been left on the counter overnight, but they still looked so delicious on the outside. The betrayal was terrible. Story 2. Once I was talking outdoors, and somehow a mosquito landed perfectly between my top and bottom teeth and exploded. That was worse than the time I bit into a glow stick. Story 3. When I was in elementary school, my mom packed me a lunch consisting of a sandwich, grapes, and a couple of Oreos as a snack. To this day, I have no idea why, but I decided to eat a grape and an Oreo at the same time. I like grapes and I like Oreos, but let me just say there is a very good reason grape and Oreo combinations do not exist. Story 4. When I was a little kid, it was my job to throw away my dad's old beer can and get him a fresh beer from the fridge. I would always take the last sip out of every one of those mostly empty beer cans until I got the one my dad had been using as an ashtray. Beer plus cigarette ash is not good. Story 5. Drank from a spitter once, also known as a bottle people use to spit when using chewing tobacco. The sensation of thick saliva, the bite of chemicals, and the grainy bits of tobacco was extremely unpleasant. -1000 out of 10. Story 6. Malort. My life is split into two. Before I had it and after I had it. I want to go back to before I had the world's most awful liquor. Story 7. I once bought a Danish from a food truck. It was in a wrapper and I didn't pull the Danish all the way out to eat it, instead pushing a little bit out to take a bite. The wrapper was also covered in the brand of the Danish, making it hard to see. I took a couple of bites and thought it tasted odd. Finally, I looked down and saw I had been eating a very moldy Danish. I threw up on the spot. I'll never forget the taste of mold spores. Story 8. Colonoscopy preparation liquid. I have compared it to Albus Dumbledore drinking poison in one of the Harry Potter movies. It was that vile. Story 9. I grabbed a milk carton from my work cafeteria during my lunch. The expiration date said it was good for another week. I opened it and took a big gulp of the most foul-tasting chunky sludge I have ever had. I spat it out and nearly threw up in the trash can. I do not care about expiration dates anymore. I always smell my milk first now. Absolutely vile. Story 10. Was hospitalized for an intestinal obstruction. The worst part was vomiting my own feces. Story 11. I was the executive chef at a brewery. The brewer and I got close, and we would always talk about flavor profiles in beer and what to pair them with. We tried new products like hops and malts raw first together to make decisions about the beer and food. One time, he got a hop gel that was concentrated. After going back and forth about whether we should try it on its own, fully knowing what to expect, I grabbed 2 toothpicks and just poked them in. You couldn't even see any of the hop concentrate on the toothpicks. It was such a small amount. We cheered, counted to 3, and popped the toothpicks in our mouths. It was easily the most bitter thing I have ever tasted, and he started gagging. We both sat there dry, heaving for about 5 minutes, chugging water to try to wash out the taste. The taste lingered for 2 days. I don't know how it stayed after brushing my teeth and tongue, using mouthwash, shots of bourbon, beers, and milk. Nothing got rid of it, and it was truly awful. The next day, we got the 3 servers to try it after service. It was hilarious. Story 12. Apparently, some people can taste intravenous drips, and I learned that I am one of them. The medicine that was helping with my severe allergic reaction immediately caused dry heaving from the taste. The nurse just shrugged it off and said it happens. Story 13. Masado de yuca. It is a drink made by someone chewing cassava, spitting it out, and then letting it ferment. Some people swear by it, but I am not one of them. Edit. I will also add as a close runner-up tokash. It is made by placing potatoes in a sack, burying them near a river, then coming back 4 months to 2 years later to dig them up and mixing them into a hot jelly. It smells like feces and tastes like a watered-down version of that smell. Story 14. I went down on my then-girlfriend for the first time, and I believe she had a yeast infection. Suddenly, I got a lumpy, gooey clump in my mouth. It felt like a wet, slimy lump of newspaper and tasted unpleasant. It affected me for a while. Story 15. Hakarl, Icelandic fermented shark. Tasted it but could not eat. Story 16. One time when I was in middle school, my friends and I mixed together all our leftovers at the buffet we were at, including pasta, brownies, ice cream, ranch dressing, ketchup, and clam chowder. They dared me to eat it for $1. I scooped the mixture up with a spoon and put it in my mouth. Then, I gagged and almost threw up all over the table. That's probably the experience. Story 17. That low-quality Halloween candy in the orange or black wrapper is disappointing. If someone is unwilling to provide good treats, they should not hand out candy, as it diminishes the festive spirit. Story 18. In my household, we are not allowed to throw things out of the fridge. We had tuna casserole one night, which we had also had 2 months earlier. I took leftovers out of the fridge and ate them. They were leftovers from 2 months ago, and the experience was overwhelming. I can still taste it if I think about it too much. I would not wish it on my worst enemy. Story 19. I had a colonoscopy on Thursday. I had to drink laxatives on Wednesday to cleanse my system. The more sips of the laxative I took, the worse the symptoms became. Story 20. Cod liver oil capsule. My mother loves fishy, oily tastes and said I should just suck the capsule. I did. When it finally popped, I nearly vomited and was horrified by my mom's taste. Story 21. Marmite. Specifically, stir-fry chicken in Marmite. I hate to waste food, but this is one of the few times I had to stop eating after several bites. I'm glad I didn't throw up on the spot. Story 22. Unseasoned boiled brains. It is like aluminum custard with bouillon flavoring. Story 23. No, it was not sexual nor intentional. Please do not ask. Story 24. Sheep testicles have the weirdest taste I have ever experienced. And no, I did not eat them willingly. My cousin forced me to. Story 25. I accidentally took a sip of my husband's chewing tobacco saliva. Story 26. Abscess tooth ruptured. Tasted and smelled awful. The dentist and his assistant were gagging, and the assistant vomited. I'm still amazed I didn't vomit as well. Story 27. One time I got a McChicken, and when I bit into it, there was nothing inside but a lot of mayonnaise. To this day, I cannot eat at McDonald's, and I get chills of horror whenever I see mayonnaise. Story 28. I had a slice of watermelon and a slice of ham on the same plate. Watermelon juice infused ham is unpleasant. Story 29. I had a bad flea infestation when I had a cat. I placed a glass of water by my bed with dishwashing liquid mixed in to catch fleas. I woke up, still half asleep, and thought it was my water, so I drank some. It tasted like dishwashing liquid and some dead fleas. My throat burned for weeks. Story 30. Squid ink mayonnaise. It was served in a wonderful burger restaurant where the owners even made their own pickles. The mayonnaise, supposedly for my French fries, tasted like super concentrated green beans. Story 31. Marmite. My goodness. I am sorry to the people who like it though. Haha. Story 32. I went to Ecuador. Guinea pigs are one of the most famous dishes there. Tasted like rotten fish. Story 33. Tripe stew. For some reason, I thought it was a kind of fish. It is not fish. Story 34. I wish I was joking, but one time I went down on a man and he finished in my mouth. The taste was abhorrent and was like battery acid. I literally gagged and spat it back up. It lingered so badly that once I got home, I had to brush my teeth and rinse my mouth 5 times for it to go away. Story 35. My grandmother used to buy spices from the bulk section of the market. Cloves and chili powder look very similar when in unmarked plastic bags. She made chili with cloves. It was terrible. Story 36. Beverly is a soft drink from Italy, not a person from down the street. Story 37. Recently, some coffee tasted like swamp water. It was almost as bad as the actual swamp water I accidentally swallowed. My answer is swamp water. Story 38. Milk of magnesia certainly is not the absolute worst, but it is close to it. Story 39. Banana-flavored medicine that was grainy and thick. I had it when I was a child, and I still remember it. Story 40. A caramel protein shake that had curdled. I still cannot look at one without gagging. Story 41. Dexmethylphenidate, better known as a type of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medication. That medication makes me gag even if I do not taste it while taking my pill. It is so awful, I hate it. Story 42. The girl I dated in early college was not very thorough with her hygiene. I went down on her on the wrong day, and suddenly there was a mix of blood and discharge. Story 43. I had a urinary tract infection when I was a teenager. I had a fear of swallowing pills, so I was prescribed a liquid medication that I had to take 4 spoonfuls of multiple times a day. It tasted like burnt plastic, and needless to say, I learned to swallow pills to avoid that experience again. Story 44. I am quite lucky in that I have never accidentally drunk from an ashtray, soda can, or anything like that. I live in Japan, and there are many truly disgusting foods that Japanese people universally love, but I cannot understand it. Examples include raw everything, not just sushi or sashimi, which I have grown to appreciate over the years, but for example, there is raw horse liver popular in Kyushu that tastes exactly like a bloody nose. They will casually serve you any kind of completely raw meat without warning, as if it is perfectly normal. There is also fish sperm, called shirako, which is a popular part of any sushi or sashimi meal. No one thinks it's strange for even a moment that they are eating fish sperm. It is so normal to them that if they serve it to you, they will not even bother to tell you what it is. It just does not seem worth mentioning. It is just fish. Then there are all the sticky, slimy, and runny foods. Japanese people love anything sticky, slimy, and runny, and it does not seem to make them gag even though it might. They go out of their way to make otherwise perfectly good food as slimy as possible because they honestly think that is better. They also do not expect you to appreciate it the same way, so sometimes it is the only thing on the menu and, of course, there is no warning. You eat it or go hungry. Eggs must also be mentioned. Eggs are considered best raw. Raw egg is added to almost everything. They ruin otherwise perfectly good food by breaking a raw egg over it, expecting you to be pleased. Many Western-style egg dishes are popular in Japan with the caveat that the eggs in the Japanese version will be as uncooked as possible. The absolute worst, by far, is natto, which is basically rotten soybeans, and it is the most disgusting thing I have ever tasted in my life. Natto has it all. It tastes like raw fermented garbage recovered from the trash bin after sitting on the curb for a week in August. It is extremely slimy. The slime is literally bacterial growth that forms on the beans as they rot. It also smells just as bad as it tastes. What is the universal ultimate soul food for Japanese people? Natto and raw egg on rice. It literally makes me throw up in my mouth just thinking about it. Yet Japanese people happily scarf it down right in front of you in a disgusting multimedia display complete with sounds, smells, and visibility. The real kicker is that between a third and a half of foreigners claim they like it, and I have absolutely no idea how or why that is possible. Story 45. Antibiotics, like an uncoated pill, dissolve when they touch your tongue or the back of your throat. Story 46. Rancid marinara sauce from Sonic. My body ejected it from my mouth before my brain even processed what happened. Story 47. Medicine pills can be unpleasant to chew, and you should avoid doing so, but I ran out of water. Story 48. I used to suck my thumb. My mother used one of those nail polishes that made it taste really bad if I tried to put my thumb in my mouth. I remember waking up after instinctively putting my thumb in my mouth and almost crying because it tasted so bad. I was spitting onto the floor for an hour trying to get the taste out. Story 49. A certain medicine was prescribed for streptococcal throat infection. I took it and then almost instantly vomited. It was very disgusting, I tell you. Story 50. Any liquid medication. The texture and taste make me gag and almost throw up. Specifically, Gaviscon. Just thinking about it makes me sick. On a more obscure level, blood. I don't know how people do it. Sucking their finger if they get a paper cut or something. I can't stand the taste. I had a dental appointment once and threw up in the sink because of the amount of blood. The assistant wasn't doing a good job rinsing. Blood tastes absolutely disgusting. Story 51. Skunk spray. My mastiff thought she made a new friend. Since it rained the night before, the grass was slick, and I was hydroplaning face first towards something in the dark. Suddenly, she stopped, and then I felt a semi-warm spritz hit my face and go into my mouth. For a second, I genuinely thought she sneezed in my face. But then the smell began, and I knew right away how bad I was for weeks to come. The taste was similar to burning rubber layered with burning hair and a dash of putrescine. Story 52. I got a little bit of meat in my wisdom tooth hole that rotted, and when the tip of my tongue touched it, I instantly threw up. Story 53. I took Paxlovid when I had coronavirus disease. It has a metallic flavor, much like sucking on pennies. All my food tasted like metal the whole time I took the course of pills. Story 54. Wasabi ginger ice cream. It was only a sample on a tiny spoon about 20 years ago, and I still want to dry heave when I think too much about it. Story 55. Ski Queen Jetost original goat cheese. What a terrible thing to exist. Story 56. Non-food. Fermented puddle water with pine needles. Single ingredient. Grapefruit. Interaction mint, then citrus. Story 57. I soaked Sour Patch watermelon candies in watermelon vodka for a week. I thought it would be a fun Dakarian-style experience. My God, that texture was unpleasant. Story 58. The fake blood in those tablets they have for Halloween costumes. Story 59. I do not know, but I was eating when I saw this thread, and now I have stopped eating. Story 60. Durian fruit. It was especially bad because I was expecting it to taste more like a sweet pineapple or something. God, it is awful. I know some people love it, but I do not know how. Story 61. Probably a tie between Bacardi 151 and undiluted oil of oregano. Story 62. Dip spit, baby puke, or spit up. Food-wise, I ate a sample of seafood salad at Sam's Club once when I was about 12. I thought it would taste more like crab or fish. I did not expect to put cold mayonnaise in my mouth with just a little imitation crab. I spat it out everywhere. In adulthood, probably Jaeger. Story 63. My school has these Trix pancake things, and I had saved one as a snack. When I pulled it out of the cabinet, it tasted like someone put a skunk gland, cat spray, rotten milk, and horseradish in it. I got sick very badly. Story 64. Sour beer is a flavor you expect when it rises but not when it goes down. Story 65. My 7-year-old and I tried some unusual durian cheese stick snacks. She liked them, but I spat mine out into a bush and ran indoors to brush my teeth. Story 66. Goat cheese literally tastes like the smell of a dead goat. Story 67. During college, there was a chocolate pudding with part of the expiry date missing. I ate it for a $20 bet. I really wish I had not. It was horribly bitter and tasted filthy. I was locked to the toilet for 2 hours afterward. Story 68. Turmeric in warm milk. I was very congested and sick with a cold and couldn't stop coughing. My partner was being very kind and looked up a cough suppressant recipe. However, he got the ratio wrong, and instead of 2 teaspoons in a cup of warm milk, he put 2 tablespoons. It was like drinking an ashtray, and I still get the gag reflex whenever I see or smell turmeric used in food. It did actually work as a cough suppressant, though. Story 69. I've always been a person who likes eating eggs in all forms. Fried, boiled, scrambled, or any way. Then I got coronavirus disease and lost my taste buds for around 2 years. Weirdly enough, the taste started coming back in parts. The one thing that took the longest to return was actually eggs. The first time I tasted an egg with my not yet fully restored taste, it tasted like trying to consume some random food you put into your backpack years ago and forgot about. Absolutely disgusting. Story 70. American cheese. I just don't understand the appeal. I literally cannot eat it without it coming right back up. Story 71. Drinking a seltzer for sure. Paxlovid mouth was pretty unpleasant. Felt like waking up with a hangover after vomiting all night. Yuck. Story 72. Canned snails, plain yogurt, and cloves. I would crunch one on my painful tooth to numb the pain a bit. It made me gag every time. Story 73. Sea turtle tastes like fishy pork chops. It is commonly eaten at celebrations in the country where I was living. It was offered to me and I tried to politely refuse. My local friend pulled me aside and told me I would offend my hosts if I did. So I followed the custom and ate some. It was not appetizing to my palate. Another bad experience was shrimp sauce in a Filipino dish. I love eating shrimp, so I was excited to try my friend's special shrimp dish from her province. I heaped a large serving on my plate during a double date. I was gagging inside as I choked down each bite. No offense to anyone who enjoys shrimp sauce, but to me it was worse than the sea turtle. Tasted like rot and decomposition. On the other hand, I arrived late to a child's birthday party and was told the hosts saved the last of the blood pudding for me. The dish is pig's blood boiled with entrails, chopped finely. I tried to refuse, but was told it would be an insult. It was actually delicious. Coppery blood gelatin with a tasty pork flavor. I know it sounds unpleasant, but it was very tasty. Story 74. A few months ago, I was carrying groceries from my car to my apartment. The bleach fell off the box, broke the lid, and splashed onto me, including my mouth. It was disgusting. I tasted the bleach for about 5 hours. Luckily, I had a water bottle nearby, so I rinsed my mouth and eyes immediately. Now I feel sick just from smelling it. I am traumatized. Story 75. I went to a strange diner that seemed like a front and probably never had real customers. They did not offer basic breakfast items like pancakes or waffles. They could make eggs. The hash browns were from the grocery store freezer aisle, not from a restaurant supply store. When the food arrived, I could smell rancid oil. I thought I was imagining it and took a bite of the eggs, which were the most putrid thing I have ever tasted. I was afraid to drink the water I ordered. The rancid oil coated every surface in my mouth. I was on a road trip, so thankfully, as soon as I walked back to the car, I could brush my teeth, but the taste did not fully leave my mouth for quite a while. Story 76. My friend and I bought a bottle of $2 wine. To be clear, it was not on special. That is just how much it cost. We figured, how bad could it be, right? Well, the answer is bad. First, it was fizzy. This was not a sparkling wine, yet when we opened it, it fizzed like soft drink, and in the glass it bubbled just the same. I could not begin to describe the taste other than to say that it did not taste like wine, sparkling or otherwise. It was sweet, though it was not a sweet style of wine, and somehow also bland at the same time. I drank the whole glass out of fascination at how utterly bad and unwine-like it was. My friend poured her glass and the rest of the bottle down the drain. In our defense, the wine bottle label was really pretty. Story 77. Rolaids have a new chewable tablet, and I have never tasted anything worse. Story 78. Aloe vera cleanser. My sister diluted it in water in a cup. I thought it was water and drank it quickly. After a good amount went down, it hit my taste buds. I couldn't drink water for 2 days without feeling sick and experiencing the same chemical sensation. Story 79. I was once temporarily living without a refrigerator, and I thought it was cold enough to leave a carton of milk outside. I used it the next day, mixed it with protein powder, and drank it. Tasted very off and foul. When I poured more out of the carton, chunks started coming out. To this day, I can almost only drink milk from a new carton in the refrigerator. Story 80. One morning, I wanted to make warm chocolate milk with instant cocoa powder. For context, I lived in a country where milk and yogurt are sold in bags. I had one of each in my fridge in a special container to hold them upright that was not see-through. I put all the ingredients in the cup, mixed it, and put it in the microwave. I took a sip. The most vile, sour, bizarre taste attacked my tongue. I thought the milk was spoiled, but when I checked, I had actually mixed it by accident with vanilla yogurt instead. Story 81. One time, my semen shot up in the air and landed on my face. I did not enjoy the taste. Story 82. One morning, I wanted to make warm chocolate milk with instant cocoa powder. For context, I lived in one of the countries where milk and yogurt can be sold in bags. I had one of each in my fridge in a special container to hold them upright that was not see-through. I put all the ingredients in the cup, mixed it, and put it in the microwave. I took a sip. The most vile, sour, bizarre taste attacked my tongue. I thought the milk was spoiled, but when I checked, I had accidentally mixed it with vanilla yogurt instead. Story 83, Goat Milk. I almost vomited and then could not eat properly for the next 3 days as the taste and smell of it still lingered in my throat. Story 84. I fell asleep with chewing gum in my mouth once and slept for about 8 hours, which left the most rancid taste in my mouth for a couple of days. Tasted like something medical and rotten. I still get a wave of nausea thinking about it. Story 85. I was at a high-end sushi restaurant in Washington, D.C. The waitress was recommending something called milt from the specials. I'm an adventurous eater, so I decided to try it. It was more of a texture thing, but I will definitely not have it again. Story 86. One of those fake ladybugs fell into my mouth while I was sleeping once. They have a kind of stinky defense mechanism and it tasted foul. Story 87. I accidentally swallowed a flying cockroach while riding my bicycle in Australia. It was the most disgusting taste I have ever experienced. I turned around, went home, and brushed my teeth twice to get rid of the taste. Story 88. While in France, I was given a strawberry mousse on a cute little shell-shaped cracker. However, it was not strawberry mousse. Tasted fishy. I had such a dramatic reaction that I still feel bad about it to this day. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know if it was a prank, and judging by their expressions, it was not. I also don't know why they didn't tell me after I asked what it was. To be honest, I cannot recall if it was actually bad or not. Maybe it was because I expected something sweet and subtle but was overwhelmed by the strong fish flavor. It was so out of character for me. I like to respect cultures and don't freak out about food even if I'm not a fan. I'm pretty open-minded. But when I say I spat as soon as it touched my tongue, I really did. Story 89. Taking a big sip out of a carton of milk. I did not realize it was spoiled and already swallowed it. Story 90. Probably bile when I'm sick. So bad it makes me vomit even more. Story 91. Diesel fuel. Never siphon gasoline, oil, or diesel by mouth. I have tasted all three, and diesel is the worst. Story 92. The bitter solution used for the respirator fit test is supposed to taste unpleasant. Story 93. I once did a challenge with my friend where we had to guess different ingredients on a spoon blindfolded. He gave me fish sauce, cinnamon, mustard, and something I don't remember. I now know that I don't like the taste of pure fish sauce. The combination was really bad. Story 94. A tooth abscess burst open in my mouth at work one time. Tastes how unpleasant odors smell. Story 95. One time as a child, I accidentally drank bacon grease. It was stored in an apple juice container to solidify before being thrown away, so I thought it was juice. Story 96. Wasabi. Sorry, I cannot handle it. It is the strongest thing I have ever tasted, and not in a good way. Story 97. Psyllium husk. It is an Indian medication for diarrhea. I have not tasted a worse thing in my life. Story 98. Sambuca. My dad loves it after dinner, so I once tried his. No. Story 99. When I was in college, my roommate and I would play darts. The loser had to drink a shot made of a predetermined number of fridge ingredients. I shudder thinking of the rank trash that I chewed and swallowed. A memorable one was a shot of fully rotten yogurt, relish juice from an old takeout container, and warm beer. The taste was ridiculous, but the texture was what would make you puke. Story 100, Beverly. If you have ever been to the world of Coca-Cola, you know. Story 101. French andouillette sausage, not the same as what is called this in the United States, smelled, tasted, and looked unpleasant. Story 102. Honestly, black olives. I don't understand the appeal. They are so gross to me. Story 103. Dextromethorphan. Just thinking of the taste makes me want to gag. Story 104. I tried durian fruit once. I was only 23 and new to the cooking world. I had to eat it over a trash can and ended up spitting it out. I would try it again just to see if I have a new opinion on it. Story 105. What are those nuts? Chestnuts? They are completely raw and not roasted at all. Disgusting. I can't get the taste out of my mouth. Story 106. I think it was called Kimberly. It is a Coca-Cola product, or at least it was when I was about 17. It was the most unpleasant concoction I have ever had the displeasure of putting in my mouth. I had it at the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, Georgia. My brain blocked the taste from memory, but I remember being so disgusted by it that I immediately and involuntarily spat it out. Story 107. Any sugar-free fizzy drink has that aftertaste present in every flavor. Any pre-made packaged gravy also has an aftertaste of plastic. Story 108. Little Debbie snack cake. My mother-in-law had them stored in a closet with mothballs. Story 109. Liver. I can't even get it down. It is the only food that causes me to gag. I have eaten a lot of unusual foods, but that is the one I cannot eat. Story 110. Delsum cough relief. I was traumatized taking it as a child for the first time and refused to ever take it again. Every time I even start to think about the taste again. Excuse me for a second. Story 111. The pus from an infected tonsil is being lanced and drained. Story 112. A bean-boozled vomit-flavored jelly bean. I literally vomited immediately. Even thinking of it would make me gag months later. Story 113. My father once put salt instead of sugar in my cocoa drink when I was a child. I had to vomit immediately. Story 114. I ate a chocolate mousse that was out of date. I eat food that is out of date all the time, and rarely does anything bad come from it. This time was not great, though. I took a big mouthful and instantly spit it out because it tasted like acid. Do not eat a chocolate mousse that is a month out of date. It is not worth the weird feeling on your tongue. I did try it in smaller mouthfuls afterward because I wanted to understand the exact feeling and flavor. It was not awful, just not a big spoonful. Story 115. A woodlouse. I thought it was a seed from the bread in my sandwich. Story 116. Horse sweat flicked into my open and unassuming mouth on a very hot day. Story 117. I was eating those jelly beans that had different flavors. The yellow one was either banana or cheese, but I kept getting cheese. It was the most foul thing ever. Story 118. Camellia zacatecaki. Even the tiniest speck of this plant tastes absolutely vile, with the worst bitterness imaginable, worse than vomit, and the taste lingers for a while. I attempted vaping it instead, hoping to avoid that taste, assuming the substance responsible was not volatile. I was wrong. It was very volatile. Vaping magnified the taste massively. Instantly, my entire mouth, nose, and throat were filled with an overwhelming taste of that infernal plant, and I immediately vomited. The only tolerable way to ingest this plant turned out to be capsules. I could still taste it, even inside my stomach. Despite this, it did nothing, although it is supposed to make you vividly dream. Story 119. Pig brain soup. To be fair, it was more a texture issue. It honestly felt like chewing through semi-soft butter. But the taste, that soup had no redeeming qualities. Story 120. Moldy orange juice. I was young and did not know things could get moldy yet. I found my lidded cup with a straw that had a small amount of orange juice left in it. A chunk of mold went up the straw into my mouth, and now I absolutely cannot do things like bubble tea. Story 121. Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. I cautiously ate 1.5 small boxes of these, and after experiencing vomit, earwax, and grass flavors in a row, I just couldn't eat anymore. As a huge Harry Potter fan, they are now purely decoration. Story 122. Tears I cried while the man who made me cry sat watching. Story 123. Rotten oat milk and rotten almond milk both become absolutely disgusting when they spoil. Story 124. Let's just say it was not my brightest idea to fall asleep with my mouth open at a beach with many birds that had upset stomachs. Story 125. University, and to be fair, it was not the freshest, but it was the texture that I remember hating most. Story 126. Let's just say I once mistook flavored lubricant for candy. Lesson learned. If it comes in a bottle, it is probably not a snack. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.